What are men over the age of 40 looking for in a woman? The online dating website that's out there, it's called Zusk, actually did an analysis of over 600,000 men's dating profiles to try to figure out what those men were looking for in a woman. And then they took that data that they found and they broke it down into different age groups and then broke it down into the most looked for down to the least looked for quality. And so today we're going to be talking about what those qualities are. And let's get started here. So hello, my name is Matthew Coast and welcome to my channel. If you are interested in knowing what the 5 top qualities are that men are looking for in a woman, type yes into the chat and let's get started. Okay, so we're going to start with number 5 and then we're going to work our way down to number 1. And so number 5 on the list was happy. So they are looking for a happy woman. And this is actually a pretty common thing that is talked about in research that's out there. Happy women are attractive women. And research on dating and relationships found that men are far more likely to approach a woman that he sees. So if a guy sees you out there, he's far more likely to approach you if the woman appears like she's happy. So if usually that is indicated with a smile on her face or something like that. Men rate women as more attractive when they're smiling, and relationships are more likely to last between happy couples. So if you're a happy couple, it's far more likely that you're going to last in a relationship. And if you're smiling and you're happy and you're enjoying your life, men are going to rate you as more attractive. Men are far more likely to approach you. And so my suggestion is that instead, because a lot of women come to me and it's becoming less and less these days, but a lot of times women come to me and they think that it's this guy that's going to make them happy. They search for happiness in the outside. They're like, oh, once I'm in this relationship with this guy that loves me, then I'll be happy. And instead, my suggestion is that you make yourself happy first. So create habits of mental focus that make you happy, because whatever you focus on, you're going to feel. And so if you're focusing on everything that's wrong, all the problems that you have, all the challenges that come up in your life, you're going to be far less happy in your life than if you're focusing on the good things, on things that make you feel good, experiences that you've had in your life that make you feel good, just different things that make you feel good. It's a much better way to go. So the second part of that is you want to start exercising regularly, because just moving your body actually releases hormones and chemicals in your body that make you feel happier. So if you're exercising, you're working out, you're moving your body, you're going to feel a lot happier than if you're not. Also, you want to eat foods that nourish your body. Believe it or not, the different foods that you eat actually change the way that you feel. And over time, if your body starts breaking down, if you have liver problems, if you have problems with your kidneys or different organs in your body, and you don't take care of that, and you don't make sure that you're coming from a healthy space, your body is very healthy, then you can fall into depression, you can fall into being angry all the time, you can fall into all kinds of negative states that you don't want to be in. And so it's very, very important to eat foods that make you happy. And then you also want to heal any past wounds that might plague your life or interfere with your life, which can be a long and difficult process. If you're trying to do it by yourself, you can always find people that can help. Personal growth programs can help with this, therapists can help with this, all that kind of stuff. But you want to make sure that you're doing those things to make sure that you're coming from a space of being happy first. It's very, very important, not only to be more attractive to men, but so that you have a higher quality of life, so that you enjoy your life a lot more. It's very, very important. So if you're here with us in the chat, say hi and tell us where in the world you're watching this from. It's cool to see women from all over the world watching these live streams. So number 4, We're on number 4. We're starting from 5, going down. Number 4 is kindness. So remember this: kindness keeps him. A British study in the Journal of Social Psychology found that most men, when they were asked to choose a woman for a long-term relationship, what they did was most of these men would pick a woman that they thought was caring and open. And so kindness is a very important part of this, right? Because caring and kindness go together. And so, passion and excitement, because a lot of things out there focus on like making him attracted from getting his emotions riled up and all that kind of stuff, which is important as well. But it can hook a guy. That passion and that excitement and that attraction can hook a guy. But a guy has to look at you as somebody that he wants to be with in a long-term committed relationship, which can often kind of go counter to some of the things that make a guy initially hooked and attracted in the first place. And so you want, just like women want to be treated well by a guy that they're in a relationship with, guys want to be treated well by a woman that they're in a relationship as well. They want a man, they want a woman guys want a woman who's on their side. It's something that I call the partnership principle. It works both ways. So number three that we're talking about is caring, which obviously goes right next to kindness. Both of these are kind of, when a guy looks at a woman who is caring and kind and sweet and just, is nice to other people around her, is nice to him, who treats the world nice, who cares about animals and people and different things. Men, they've actually done studies on this, and what they found is it was researchers in Israel that did a study on this, and they found that in the initial dating stages of men and women, that men found that if he was interacting with a woman who he thought was caring, that he felt like she was more feminine and he was more attracted to her. So if a guy felt like a woman was caring, he felt like she was both more attractive and more feminine, right? Which is, they go both hand in hand, right? Being feminine and being attractive go hand in hand for a guy, right? If a guy feels that way about you. And so caring is a feminine trait, and being feminine is attractive to men. So set a standard. Here's my suggestion: set a standard for yourself to be caring to the world, right? To other people. I mean, you don't have to be caring all the time, right? We're not trying to turn everybody into these like perfect robots that are, I'm so caring all the time. Sometimes you just don't care, right? Let's just be real here. Sometimes you don't care about things. But at the same time, it's a very, very, it's a normal and a natural state that most people are actually in when when they're not clouded by their judgments and their trauma from their past and being exhausted or any of that kind of stuff. And so make sure you're taking care of yourself. And when you're taking care of yourself, my guess is that you're probably a caring, wonderful, amazing, attractive human being that men would absolutely want to be with. If you get what I'm talking about right now, say, I get it. Say, yes, I get it in the chat. If you don't get what I'm talking about, go ahead and leave whatever questions that you have in the chat, and I will get to your questions here in just a minute. So ask your questions. All right, number two on the list was honesty. And research conducted on attractiveness in the Journal of Research and Personality, they actually found that they were given so they took these people, right? These guys, they took these men, and they were given a list of different traits about a woman before they were shown certain photos of these women. And so they did this over a huge number of women, and they were just conducting a study of how does our perception of someone change their attractiveness before we even see a photo of them. And so they were given a list of different traits, a short list of different traits that this woman had, and then they were shown a photo of the woman. And they did this over a huge number of men, over a huge number of different women, and they analyzed the data. And here's what they found. They found that when guys were told that a woman was honest before seeing that photo of her, they rated her as being much more attractive than guys who were not, who they were shown, they were given her a list where attractive or honest wasn't on the list. And so if he saw a list and he saw that she was honest and he thought that she was honest, he was far more likely to think that she was attractive. So that's what the study said. Okay. So what this tells us is that it's the perception of being honest, not even the act, that makes a woman more attractive. So if a guy perceives you as being honest, you don't even necessarily have to be more honest than other women or more honest than you'd think you would be. It actually makes him feel more attracted to you if he thinks that you are an honest person. And so most people are out there, most men and women are actually out there lying. They're lying all the time, and they do it a lot, especially around dating. And so lying has become such a commonplace now for both men and women that it's actually really refreshing when somebody's not lying about stuff. So women, most common, lie about their age, they lie about their photos, they lie about, so a lot of times their interest in a guy. And so when a guy, don't get me wrong, guys are lying all the time too, right? But here's my suggestion. My suggestion is that you set a new standard for yourself and for the man that you're with about being honest, making sure that you're honest, making sure that you're talking about being honest, and set that as a standard when you meet men and when you communicate with a guy, so that he gets that you're an honest person from the beginning. Because I mean, let's just be real. Being honest is a very, very important trait for both men and women. And it makes you more attractive. So let's do it. Let's do it. All right. And the number one trait that Zusk found in this study of what was most guys were looking for over the age of 40 in a woman was fun. That's right. Fun is the most common thing that men said that they're looking for. And so what are we even talking about when we talk about fun? And I'm sure that you may have your own perception of what fun is. And my suggestion is that the idea of fun is around the idea of excitement, the idea of passion, the idea of variety, the idea of mystery. Those are things that are fun, right? There's also kind of this physical element of fun, right? Like hooking up together and all that kind of stuff. And that's fun as well. And just being connected, talking, having fun things, there being some passion there being kind of this variety of different things, there being kind of this mystery to you about you, right? Which, if you want to be mysterious, all you need to do is be in your feminine, because that will make you incredibly mysterious. Because guys, when they see women who are like in their feminine and they're emotional and stuff, it's very mysterious to us. We don't understand. We look at it and we're like, I don't know. She was like really excited, and then she was sad, and then she was happy, and then she was crying, and now she's happy again. I have no idea what's going on with her, but I'm so attracted to it. I don't get it at all, but I'm so attracted to it, right? And being unpredictable is a part of this, right? Just getting out of that consistency, getting out of being like all the other women out there, and just honestly, if you're being honest, that's actually a way to be different than most women that are out there. Going back to number 2 over there. And then going on adventures, having any kinds of adventures. And the way that I look at adventures is just, going and doing something like spontaneous, or doing something you wouldn't normally do, or taking him and doing something that you wouldn't normally do, and just going out and having fun, having an adventure. It could be anything. Doesn't even necessarily need to be something big. Just going to the grocery store, going shopping together could be an adventure. And then the last one is just having fun and coming from a place of fun and enjoying yourself, enjoying your life, enjoying everything around you, and just appreciating life and being grateful for the life that you have. and just coming from this place of gratitude and fun and excitement and playfulness and all that kind of stuff creates fun. That's what creates fun. And so not all men out there are looking. Notice on the list they didn't have trophy wife or, super young girl or, you know, super hot girl with no personality or anything like that, because not all guys are looking for a trophy wife. Not all guys are looking for a girl that's super young. Not all guys a lot of guys prefer, in fact I'd say most men prefer a good personality over just a hot body with no personality at all. And so you want to make sure that let's go over the 5 again. If you have any questions for me, ask your questions in the chat and I will get to the questions here in just a second. Let's go over the 5 again. Number 5 is happy. These are the 5 qualities that men over 40 look for in a woman. Number 5 is happy. Number 4 is kindness. Number 3 is caring. Number 2 is honesty. And then number 1, the most looked for one, according to this study, was fun. Fun. And if you don't have my program yet, go ahead and you can go check it out at theforeverwomanformula.com. You can get it there for free. All right. So what questions do you have here for me? What questions do you have? Lots of yeses. Hello, hello, hello. Hello, hello, hello. Hello. So Destined for Greatness says, hi, glad you are live. Well, hello. I'm glad you're here watching us live right now. Yes, yes, yes. SM says, yes, thank you. I like your singing too, and your laughter relaxes me. Well, I'm glad it relaxes you, and I'm glad you're enjoying these videos. I'm glad you're enjoying these videos. Hello, hello, hello. Lots of people from all over the place. It's cool. So cool. So cool to see so many women from all over the world just saying hi. Lots of people get it. Get it, get it. Get it, get it, get it. Baby Rillin says, Matt, I'm so honest, but I get scammed. Yeah, I mean, those are 2 completely different things. What you're probably doing, Baby Rillin, is that you're probably really trusting, which is a good thing, right? You probably look at people and you're like, oh, this person's being honest with me. They're being real with me. And one of the things that I talk about is you need to look at consistency over time. You need to make sure that you're getting yourself into a good situation. And it sucks, right? It sucks getting scammed. Lots of people out there have gotten scammed. And you need to make sure that you set things up so that you're not getting scammed, right? So I'm just going to guess that maybe this was an online scam of some kind. My suggestion is that you do not talk to a man online for more than a week without meeting up. So if a guy wants to talk to you for more than 7 days and not meet up, my suggestion is that you stop talking to him completely until he wants to meet up with you. And if he's in another country or somewhere far away, or he's in a distant land or something like that, that's awesome. Tell him to contact you when he gets back, and then you can meet up together, but that you're really busy right now and you just don't have time for it, and see what ends up happening. If that's the case, then you're not going to get scammed if you just stop talking to people after 7 days. If they're, I'll also remember, never give a man money, right? Never give a man, especially a guy that you've never met before. But even if you have met him before, don't give men money. Don't give people money at all. Just don't do that unless you know the person, or unless you really don't care if that money ever comes back to you. So don't do that. So I know it sucks, Baby Berlin. Getting scammed sucks. And we need to be smarter as people and start making sure that we're protecting ourselves and taking care of ourselves. And I want to help you do that to the best of your ability. So I hope that helps. I hope that helps. I hope it helps. Shada says, I really love your advice. It really makes a lot of sense to me. Well, I'm glad it makes a lot of sense to you, Shada. Your picture is kind of like just like right here, but it's great. It's great. I hope it helps. I'm glad it helps. I'm like busting on your picture over here. Busting on your picture over here. All right. Debbie says you are a very uniquely handsome person. Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Don says I'm pushing 50 and I hit all 5. Why am I still single? The only guys I attract only want hookups. Well, there's a lot of different things that I could say about that, Don. I mean, it's hard to know without knowing more about what's going on with you. However, if you want to make sure that you get into a good situation, make sure you pick up a copy of The Forever Woman at theforeverwomanformula.com. It's my whole system about how to make sure that you're getting into a situation where men value you and love you and trust you and think that you're the best. The bee's knees. They think that you are the most awesome woman in the world, Don. We're all going to think you're the most awesome woman in the world. We all will think that. So check that out. And also, you want to make sure that you're not hooking up with guys quickly. You can just keep talking to guys, let them know your standards, let them know your boundaries, and just don't hook up with them quickly. Make sure you're not misinterpreting things, because that happens a lot where women will misinterpret a guy doing a sexual joke or something like that, and she's like, oh, men just want to hook up, that's it, that's all I want, right? Which isn't necessarily true. And so you don't want to go overboard on it either, right? Because the magic is usually in the middle. And for guys, they need to push things towards some kind of physical intimacy, because if they don't, then they're just going to be single for the rest of their lives. You're going to find somebody else who does. And so they're still working on things, right? Guys are working on things. You want to make sure you're getting yourself into a good situation, and you want to open yourself up to abundance dating, and don't let men in unless they are proving to you that they are the kind of man that are going to take you to the promised land of being in the relationship that you want to have. And I talk about that in detail in my program, The Forever Woman. You can get it. Go check it out at theforeverwomanformula.com, and you can get coaching along with that program. So my suggestion is you check it out and get it for free. Can get it for free. Shanaz says, I am crushing over someone. Yeah, that's a good feeling usually. Is it okay to take gift while on the first date? So if you're asking if you can take him a gift on the first date, my suggestion is that you don't do it. And if you're asking if you can receive a gift from him on the first date, the answer is yes. But you don't want to take gifts to guys, right? So what happens a lot of times when women are crushing over a guy, they're like, oh, this guy is just so awesome. I just want him to think I'm as awesome as I think he is, right? You feel that way about him. What you usually start doing when that happens is you put him on a pedestal, and he's up here on a pedestal, and then you're looking up to him and he's looking down to you, and he's like, well, if she thinks that she's not good enough for me and that she's putting me up on this pedestal, that's only going to get worse, right? It's going to get worse over time. It's not very attractive. It's all those kinds of things. So Shanaz, you definitely don't want to take a gift to a guy on a first date. Don't do it. Unless he's showering you with gifts, my suggestion is that you don't do the same. And if he does do that on the first date, that's kind of weird too. And so, no, you should not give a guy a gift on a first date. Don't do that. All right, let's see. What else? Tracy says, if I am getting to know someone, how do I let him know that I am honest? Well, you can just talk about it, right? Just talk about qualities, talk about values, talk about people, right? Let's say that you go on a date. Tracy, let's help you out here a little bit. You go on a date, you like this guy, he seems really cool, and you're like, I want him to know that I am an honest woman. What you could do is you can talk about a situation where there was some dishonesty or honesty with somebody else, right? It could be like maybe on a TV show, or it could be a fictitious people that you know in the world, or something like that. Or you could just even straight up ask, like, do you think, like, what do you think of honesty? What do you think of people being honest? Do you think they should be honest all the time, right? You can do any of those kinds of things, and then you basically just segue it. So let's say that you take an instance of a couple on a TV show, and let's say that this couple, and he lied on his online dating profile and said that he was 1 inch taller than he really is, and then they got together and they got married, right? And you can go, yeah, you know what, it's really cool that they got married, but it's a total turnoff when a guy is dishonest like that from the very beginning. Seems like a big red flag. What do you think? Right. And then you say, for me, I try to be as honest as I can anytime that I'm in a situation where honesty comes up. And it's really important for me to be honest, and it's important for me to have a partner that's really honest. And so he's going to be like, oh yeah, of course it's really important, right? Because everybody thinks that honesty is important regardless of how honest they are. And then you just watch, right? You just watch and make sure that you're getting yourself into a good situation like we talk about. But all you're doing is just conveying it. You're just conveying honesty. You're talking about honesty. And having a story to tie it to can be a really, really powerful way to talk about you valuing honesty, you setting a standard for being honest, or wanting other people in your life to be honest. You can talk about a time where you had a really good friend and you really cared about him, and but he just couldn't be honest with you, and he did something one time, and you're just like, you know what, I only want honest people in my life. That's the only way that I want to be in a relationship, whether it's a friendship or a romantic relationship, or even with family members. People need to be honest if they're going to be in my life, because I value honesty really highly, and it's really important to me that I'm being as honest as possible. Maybe I slip up sometimes, I'm human like everybody else out there. And I think it's really important that we set a standard for ourselves, that we're honest, and that, it seems like such an important and vital part of a relationship. And so I kind of went off on a tangent there, Tracy. I hope that answers your question. I hope that answers your question, Tracy. I hope it answers your question. Jillian sends me $5. Thank you, Jillian. I appreciate it. She says, much gratitude for you, Matt. I'm with an amazing man now, and your advice and encouragement has been and continues to be very helpful. Thank you. Well, you are welcome there, Jillian, and I am congratulations on being with an amazing man now, and I'm so happy for you, and I wish you the best of connection and love, and I can't wait to hear more about what happens in your love life. And so that's awesome, Jillian, and congratulations. Congratulations, Jillian. Celeste says, hi, Matt. Thank you for being so authentic. It is easy to relate to what you're saying. Well, I'm glad you feel that way. 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 Do, 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 do. Kirsty says, Matthew, that's naughty saying us women are liars. I didn't say you women are liars. I don't know what you're talking about. You have just described me. Do men hide their feelings even if they are attracted to you? Yeah, a lot of guys will, right? Because they've found the same thing that a lot of women do. And so sometimes I'll have women that'll come to me, right? And they're like, how do I tell this man that I'm dating how I feel about him, right? And my advice to that is always, when did I ever say that you should tell some man that you're dating like everything about how you feel about him? That's not on the list of things that connect with a man or make a man value you more or anything like that, right? Like there's kind of these two worlds, right? One is being honest, and the other world is way overboard honesty, like throwing out things that you don't need to say or do or any of that kind of stuff because you're trying to be honest, right? There's a whole bunch of things that you don't tell people that about yourself, right? You don't tell people about the last bowel movement you had. You probably don't tell people about, every meal that you've cooked. Why? Because it's not necessary. It's not necessary to tell somebody about a whole bunch of things that aren't relevant to that or is going to negatively impact things. And so if you're telling a guy that you really like him when you don't know how he feels about you yet, it's likely to kind of throw things off, right? He's likely to feel like you're moving too fast for him and that you're going to end up being clingy and needy and desperate and all kinds of low self-esteem and all kinds of other things. And it'll be a huge turnoff. And so guys have experienced the same thing. Guys have experienced this all over the place where they've bought women flowers and the woman just walked all over him or slept with his friend or, like, he confessed his feelings to a woman and then she ghosted him right afterwards, right? So guys have experienced all of these things. And guys have fallen in love with women who have cheated on them and used them or, slept with their friends or whatever, right? And so a lot of people will associate falling in love and admitting their feelings and telling people about what's going on with them from an emotional standpoint as actually being really painful because they've done it in the past and it's backfired in their faces because it's not a good strategy to do that, especially if that person hasn't told you about their feelings, or if you're with somebody that you're just with them because you're attracted to them and not because they're actually a good person to be with, which happens a lot. I mean, it happens all the time where men and women will just use their hearts and they'll fall in love with somebody and they're like, oh, and then they come to somebody like me, or on the men's dating side, somebody like me, and they're like, oh, there's this person. And I was actually just talking to a guy about 2 weeks ago about this, who came to me and he was like, oh, there's this woman and, she's doing all these horrible things. Right. And, what should I do to keep her? And I'm like, why are you trying to keep a woman who's, just doing these horrible, like, red flag things all over the place? Right. And he's like, well, because I really like her. And it's like, yeah, but that's not that's going to end at some point, right? There's going to be some point where you're not as smitten about her or you feel differently about her, and you're going to wake up from the being love drunk. It's something I call love drunk, right? You're going to get sober from your love drunkenness and you're going to realize that this person isn't actually a good person for you to be with, and you're going to be like, "Oh my god, maybe I should, I've already gotten married to this person, right? I've already done all these things with this person." And so a lot of guys are afraid of actually falling for women because what they've found is that when they fall for women, it's usually a really bad situation, right? Like a lot of guys and a lot of women have patterns where they find, if they're like, wow, if I'm in a relationship with or if I'm totally in love with this person, then it might be a red flag, right? That I'm totally in love with this person because I keep being attracted to all these really toxic people. And so, yes, the answer is yes. Men can hide. The quick answer is yes. Men do hide their feelings sometimes if they're attracted to you. So. Even if they're not in a relation, or if they're not actually even dating you, a lot of times they'll do that because they don't know how you're going to feel about it. They don't want to embarrass themselves and all that kind of stuff. So you might want to just, if there's a guy and you think he's interested in you, what you might want to do is just start flirting with him a little bit. Just say things or accuse him. Another great way of doing it is accusing him of being attracted to you. That works great. It's called force framing. It's a really, really powerful thing to do. So, Wynn says, I can't believe that women can be dishonest in a relationship. What happens when they get caught out? Well, I mean, there's a lot of women that are dishonest. My brother was actually married to this woman at one point, and she would say she would leave her and their child, who was less than 1 year old, and she would just disappear for weekends at a time, right? And she would just disappear. We had no idea where she was going. And so my brother actually hired a private detective and who followed her. I'm from Ohio originally, and I'm in Ohio right now, actually. And he hired a private detective that followed her all the way into Indiana, right? And she was going up to this city in Indiana, and she was hooking up with some dude, right? Some guy that she knew that lived in Indiana, right? And so she was lying about that. And, my brother found out about it, and they got divorced, and they found out that she had, borderline personality disorder or something like that. And he ended up getting the child, who's my nephew, who's a really, really awesome kid, by the way. And so it happens all the time, right? Women lie all the time in relationships. They lie in marriages. They lie in dating. They lie in all kinds of different things. And so it's pretty common, actually. I think most people are lying in their dating profiles and like somewhere in their online stuff. Like it's very, very, very common. Like just being honest will separate you from most other women that are out there. Guaranteed win. Guaranteed. Just being honest will make you different than all the other women out there. Lillian says, so it's okay if they don't care about sex, but great in other ways. Okay. So Hada says, I have a question. How can I communicate with my ex and building trust with him again? So trust is built with through the hard times, Hada. So if you ruin trust with a guy, it's very difficult to regain trust because it's literally built through difficult, challenging situations. And so if you're in a challenging situation where you could go one direction, which is a direction of breaking trust, or another direction, which is a direction of building trust, you always want to go in the building trust direction. You want to do it in every situation that you can, especially when it's a challenging or difficult situation that would maybe test your trust. And so it can be really, really difficult. Sometimes it happens over time. And sometimes it's really not up to you whether trust is built with him or not, because if he has issues from the past of you not being trustworthy, and all of a sudden you're like, hey, no, you should really trust me this time, right? It's possible that it'll never happen because he just doesn't trust you anymore, because that's what happens. Because it happens. Hottest, hatest, hottest, hatest high. Hottest High. I like your name there, Hottest High. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense, Hottest High. Ginger says, my problem is when I'm too honest, the guy will leave me. So what can I do? Well, it depends on what you mean by too honest, Ginger. I was just talking about this recently where being honest doesn't mean saying everything that's going on all the time, right? That's not being honest. That's giving way too much information than you should be giving, right? You show up and he doesn't ask you, if you go and hang out with a guy and you're dating other people, let's say you're dating in abundance. This is one of the common ones that I see women talk about in our community. And they're like, well, I'm dating other men, right? And so they show up and they go on a date with this guy, and they're like, oh, hey, by the way, I'm dating a whole bunch of different men right now. What do you think about that? Right. And it's like, he doesn't need to know that. He doesn't want to know that. That's none of his business. You're not in an exclusive relationship. It's none of his business. There's a lot of things that are none of his business. It's none of his business what kind of deodorant you're wearing or what, your favorite shoes, to put. I don't know. I'm just making up stuff, but you don't have to tell him everything. There's a whole bunch of things that you don't tell guys when you go on dates. That doesn't mean you're not being honest. Some of that's none of his business. Some of it he doesn't care about. Some of it will make you less attractive to him initially. Some of it's things that you don't talk about on a first date. You wait until you're further in the date before you, or after a couple of dates or something, before you talk about it. You don't have like grabbing everything that's every issue and problem and thing that's going to make him less attracted to you and throwing it in his face doesn't make, isn't a good recipe for making a guy more attracted to you. And it doesn't make you more honest. It just makes you somebody who says a whole bunch of things that don't necessarily need to be said. And she also says, so should I be a 100% honest because sometimes I will chase the guy away? Well, you should figure out what you're saying that's chasing the guy away, and then figure out whether that's actually honest or not, right? Why are you saying that to him? Why are you telling him that? Is it something that really needs to be said, right? If you fart, do you tell a guy that you just farted? Right? Do you tell a guy every time you fart? Right? If you're on a date, do you tell a guy every time you fart, Ginger? I want to know. I want to know if you fart on a date, if you tell him every single time. If you do, you should stop that behavior right now, Ginger. Stop it. It's none of his business. He doesn't want to know. He doesn't need to know. It's not important. Don't tell him about that. Does that make sense, Ginger? No talking about your farts on a date. Don't do it. Don't do it, Ginger. Don't do it, Ginger. Stop talking about your farting. He doesn't want to know about your farting on the date. Okay. Francicia says, thank you for your advice. What you said really makes sense. Well, I'm glad it makes sense to you. I'm glad it makes sense to you. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. All right, let's see. So Lori says, I am an honest person, but for some reason, I'm always told I seem like I'm not that interested in them. I give off that vibe. So they pull away, even though I know they really like me. I tell them I like them, but they don't believe me. Well, I mean, there could be a whole bunch of different things going on there, Lori. And one of them is, showing, right, versus just telling. Right? What shows a guy that you're interested in him? Maybe sending him a text message, right? Initiating a text message. Like there's this thing out there. We talk about leaning back, and most of the women in our community get it, and they listen to what I talk about. And when they do that, they're really, really successful with it. Some women take it to an extreme because they don't actually watch my video about leaning back. You should watch my video about leaning back if you haven't watched it. And what they do is they show no interest in a guy at all, right? They don't initiate any texts. They don't, give him any compliments. They don't, they don't build any of the relationship together. They're just waiting for the guy to do everything. And then they're like, oh, well, the guys ghost me after, or they pull away and disappear after, 3 or 4 dates or something like that, right? Or 5 dates or something. And so what a lot of times I have them do is I'll have them call the guy or send the guy a text message and start up the conversation and start talking to the guy again. And a lot of times the guy's like, oh, I didn't think you were interested in me. And what it really was that, she never did anything because she thought that leaning back meant that you're not supposed to do anything. And leaning back doesn't mean that. You should still show interest in a guy. You should still connect with the guy. You still can do a lot of things for a guy and with a guy, right? Because guys want to feel like they're valued and they're loved and they're appreciated and that they're attractive and desired and all those things as well. And so if you're not doing any of those and the guy's doing everything, he's going to feel like you just don't really like him all that much, right? If you send him text messages and you just send him short answers back or whatever, he's going to be like, oh, she's not really that into me, right? And so he wants to see some effort from you as well. Most guys want to see effort from you as well, not just on their part, because if they're doing everything and you're doing nothing, they're going to feel like they're being taken for granted. They're going to feel like they're being taken advantage of. They're going to feel like you don't really like or care about them. And so you want to show energy and effort back if he's doing that with you. If he's not doing that with you, then you shouldn't do it. But if he is, then you should. You can. It's okay. It's okay there, Lori. It's okay. You can show a man, Lori, that you really like him. You can show him. God, okay. I'm going off the deep end here, Lori. Does that make sense to you? If that makes sense to you, type yes into the chat. El Musimi says, today is my 44th birthday. Well, happy birthday, El Musima. El Musima, happy birthday. Happy birthday. Anonymous Facebook user says, yes, recently I met someone online, said he didn't smoke, but he does. Why lie? Because he knows that you probably don't want to be with a guy who smokes. And so what happens sometimes, and this works with men and with women, is sometimes people will lie and then they'll get that person emotionally invested. And then once that person's emotionally invested, they all of a sudden are like, but here's the true me, right? This is the reality of the situation. I'm 10 years older than I said I was. I am, have all these problems that I, have, or what, whatever, right? And a lot of times it works because the person's like, you know what, I don't even care anymore. I care about you and all that kind of stuff, and let's move forward. And so a lot of people will lie initially because it works. It works long term. And so what you want to do is make sure that you're not over investing in anybody, so that when you find out that, he's actually still married and, he's, I don't know, like got some kind of weird bad addictions where he's really into clowns, like really little clowns. You open the door one day and you are like looking, he's got some magazines and they're all filled with naked clown guys, or whatever, right? You don't want to find that out about him and be super emotionally invested, right? And so a lot of guys will hide things, just like a lot of women will hide things just like that, right? And then you'll end up finding out about it. And that's why you don't want to be overly, it would be great, right? There was a woman today who was complaining on our Facebook page who was like, men who deceive women and tell them that they're interested in something more and then aren't, they should be prosecuted by the law, right? Like women do the same thing. Like, here's the reality, is that people shouldn't lie. People should be honest. People should be upfront about what's going on with them. And the reality is that a lot of people aren't, and they don't. And that's something that we just all have to deal with now. And because of that, we need to make sure that we're protecting ourselves and we're setting ourselves up so that we don't get overly invested or fall in love with somebody only to find out that they have a giant closet of red flags that they've been hiding from you. And so you want to make sure that you're following my system. Number one, make sure you're following my system. And number two, don't get overly invested in a guy in the early stages. Just wait, spend some time with him, get to know him without hooking up with him, without, doing all these things that everybody's doing right now, because we live in this society right now. The social media society is what I call it. right now. It's like everybody's used to bing, oh, oh, I know what's going on now. And then they send their friend a message and they're like, ding, 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 right? And then they send the message and the person receives it and they immediately send something back. And so everybody's like, I need to get it right now, right? And Amazon, if you order something from Amazon, they like fly it over with a drone within like 3 hours of ordering it. And so everybody's like, everything should happen right now, immediately, right? And the reality is that we should wait a little bit before we're getting overly invested in things, before we're jumping into relationships, before we're hooking up with people that we don't know, before we're showing up at people's houses on first dates and all that kind of stuff. All this stuff is nonsense. Stop doing it. Just wait a little bit and get to know people a little bit better before you jump into a situation with them, so that you can make sure you're getting yourself into a good situation. And that's what I totally ran off on a tangent there. Totally ran off on a tangent. Totally ran off on a tangent. Crystal says, how do I get him to not pull away every time we see one? I'm guessing you're saying we see each other. So Crystal, here's my suggestion is, one, you figure out what you mean by pull away, right? Because are you asking, because we had a woman on here one time and she was like, oh yeah, this guy pulls away every single day, right? And I was like, pulls away every day, and she's like, yeah, in the evening he like stops talking to me and then he doesn't start talking to me again until the morning. And I'm like, you mean he like goes to bed, he like has something that he's doing in the evening and then he goes to sleep and wakes up the next day and he like starts talking to you again? Is that what you mean by pulling away, right? And so Crystal, you want to think about what pulling away actually means, because a lot of times people think pulling away is not talking to you for a few hours or not talking to you for a day. And a lot of people, it's actually normal. It's actually pretty normal a lot of times for people to not want to talk to somebody all the time, right? Especially if they're working, especially if they have things going on in the evening. I mean, there could be all kinds of different things, and so like pulling away, I don't know what it means to you. It could mean a whole bunch of different things, but it might just be a normal thing for him. He might think, oh, we saw each other, I need to give her some distance and some space before I start talking to her again, because he might have had experiences where he smothered women, where he went on a date with them and they talked or whatever, and then he started messaging them and they ghosted him, right? Because he was smothering them. It could have been from a whole bunch of different things, but he linked it to him smothering them. And so now he's not doing that anymore. And so what you want to do is make sure that you're not smothering a guy, that you have clear expectations. You can actually talk to him about it, right? Find out what's normal for him. Just have a conversation with him about it and say, hey, what's normal? I noticed that, when we meet and we talk to each other, you disappear for, a few days, like, do you think that's like normal behavior for you? Do you think that's what people normally do or whatever? Right. And he'll tell you what he thinks. He'll be like, oh yeah, I just get busy with things and whatever. And then you'll know that he doesn't even think about it. Right. And if it's something that's important to you, you can always ask for it. You can set a standard for it. You can say things that let him know that you are more attracted to somebody who does what it is that you want him to do. So, I think it's really, really, I think it's really attractive when a guy, checks in on a girl that he's dating. It just, I don't know, for me, like when a guy does that, it just makes me feel so like taken care of and loved and stuff, and so what you're doing is you're just communicating things that you want him to do, and you're linking that to it being attractive to you. And then he'll start processing that and he'll decide whether he wants to do that or not. And that's the best way to do it, is just have a real conversation. I got a hair that just keeps coming down in my face. That's the best way to do it, is have a conversation with him about what he thinks and what you think, and then get on the same page with it, instead of trying to guess and thinking he's pulling away or whatever, which maybe he is, maybe he's not, maybe it's normal behavior. And you want to figure that out. You want to figure that out. That's one of the biggest kind of challenges that a lot of people have is they'll take normal behavior and then they assume that it's malicious or that it's a problem or that whatever, right? And it could just be that you're not on the same page. It could be that you have different communication blueprints of what you want in a relationship. It could be that you're not really compatible with each other, but the only way to find that out is to have a real conversation with him about what's going on with him and what is normal, what's not normal, and what he likes and what he doesn't like, and what you like and what you don't like. Does that make sense there, Crystal? I hope that makes sense. I hope that makes sense to you, Crystal. I hope that makes sense to you, Crystal. And a lot of this stuff actually has to do with just coming from the right space, just coming from a place where you feel strong, you feel happy, you feel whole. You go into situations where you're not coming from an era of desperation, where you're not trying to make things happen that shouldn't be made happen. You're coming from a space of feeling your own value and knowing your own value and making sure you're getting into situations that make sense and communicating with the person that you're dating so that you can make sure you're on the same page with things. And so we're going to end this video like we do with many of them, and we're going to do the Queen's mantra. And if you're not familiar with the Queen's mantra, we say it 3 times. We're going to say it here 3 times. So first, let's take a deep breath. We're going to do a few breaths real quick. So take a deep breath in and breathe out. Take another deep breath in and take a breath out. And then one last deep breath in. And just breathe out any stress, any feelings of not being enough, any feelings of needing to do a whole bunch of things or fix things with a guy or any of that kind of stuff. Just anything where you're feeling a lot of stress and tension, just breathe that all out. And just experience the moment here with me for a second while you think about what kind of a relationship you ultimately want to have. And what I want you to do is just imagine yourself, just for a second, just close your eyes and just imagine yourself experiencing that relationship. Just be in whatever it is that you want. Maybe it's a relationship where you're just loved and cared for. What would an expression of that be that you could see in your mind right now? How will you know that you're in the relationship that you want to be in? Just close your eyes and think about that experience right now with me, just this moment. Just feel it. What does it feel like to finally be in and have that relationship that you've always wanted to have? What is it like? What do you think? What words come up for you? How do you feel about yourself? How do you feel about the man that you're with? How do you feel about love and relationships? Just think about yourself being in that moment where you know for a fact that you have the relationship that you've always wanted to have. And just feel it. Just feel it. And then lastly, we're just going to say the Queen's mantra. If you're not familiar, we say it 3 times. Are you ready? Here we go. I am valuable. I am worthy. And I deserve to be cherished. I am valuable. I am worthy. I deserve to be cherished. I am valuable. I am worthy. I deserve to be cherished. And I just want you to leave this video today remembering your value, remembering what it is that you want, remembering that you're not going to settle for anything less than having the relationship that you've always wanted to have. guys are acting funny, if guys are acting weird, if guys are doing things that are red flags, instead of trying to fix them or change them or tell them that they're wrong or get revenge on them or any of that kind of stuff, instead, just look to the future. Look to the better days in front of you. Look to the relationship that you ultimately want to have. And remember that if he's not taking you there, he's not the one. And if he doesn't want to get his act together, then he doesn't get to be the one. You are a divine being. You are a beautiful goddess who deserves to have a man who treats you like you're a valuable, special, amazing woman. A man who cherishes you. A man who sees how amazing you are. Who sees you, all the difficulties, all the screw ups, all the imperfections that you have, and looks at you in the face, knowing all the things that you have that you're afraid of, that you're not proud of. And he still looks at you and he says, "You're beautiful. You're amazing. You're everything that I've ever wanted. You might not be perfect, but you're perfect for me. I want to be with you and I'm not going anywhere." So with that, we will close up this session. Thank you for being here. I will speak with you again soon. And always remember, you are worth it. Have a great day, a great